Aloha, guys, and welcome back to Degree Free. We are your hosts, Ryan and Hannah Maruyama. On this podcast, we share fundamentals we've discovered and the mistakes we've made while self-educating, getting work, building businesses, and making money. We'll tell you how to make it happen, no degree needed.
Before we get into today's episode, if you are looking for a way to actionably take what you've heard on here and do it yourself, you can check out our website, which is degreefreenetwork.com, and you can grab our guide where we put all of this stuff neatly together into one guide so you can take it and use it as a manual. That said, if you can't do that right now, please keep listening along, take notes, and you can find all of this stuff yourself if you just listen to the episodes and keep a list of what to do.
Right on. Let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about tech certifications. Today is going to be an introduction of tech certifications, kind of what they are, how to get them, why you would get them, kind of the who, what, where, when, why of it all. We get this question a lot about tech certifications and also about job training that's not college. When people are like, okay, well, I'm not going to go to college, what should I do then? And they don't know what they want to do. This is one of an infinite amount of answers, but it's a pretty common one. It's something that Hannah's pretty familiar with just because she has some personal experience with these.
Yeah, I find that the tech certifications are kind of mystifying to a lot of people. Especially when I talk to people who have college degrees who are now looking to change jobs, they don't even know that they exist. They think that you have to get a degree in whatever that is in order to get a job in that. But in fact, it's the opposite. You need a cert to get a job in a specific type of tech. You don't need a college degree. The reason is because if you went and applied with a degree and you don't have the cert, they'll tell you to go get the cert because you're not qualified. But if you have the cert and you don't have a degree, they're more likely to hire you than they are if you just have a computer science degree or something. So it's been really interesting as I've been talking to people, like you said, who don't want to go to college and they're trying to figure out what to do, or people who are trying to change jobs and earn more money or just find a different sort of lifestyle.
So before you go any more into it, what are tech certifications?
So a tech certification is basically a branded college degree. It's a piece of paper that is issued usually by a licensing body or by the company itself to use its software or its methods. When I say methods, sometimes these are management methods. They're not necessarily being able to use a certain type of software. So there is a methodology called Agile, which is used in software development, and you can go and learn how to do the Agile methodology and use it to help lead software development teams or just product development teams. I think most people would be more familiar with Six Sigma was really big at one time. That was a methodology. It wasn't a technology. It was just a way to manage people that was used at a lot of big manufacturing companies. And it became something that was a standardized skill set. So you'll see it now, even sometimes there's still jobs that specify they want somebody with this certification. And the certification is oftentimes more important than the degree because the specific knowledge is in the cert, not in the college degree.
Yeah, it's specific knowledge of exactly what this company needs.
Right. And when I say branded college degrees, I'm talking you're getting it's Google or it's Microsoft or it's Google, it's Microsoft, it's Oracle, and they're telling you exactly what you need in order to know enough to use whatever software or whatever method that they have designed. They are obviously more of an authority on that than a college. Every time because it's theirs. They made it. And these certifications are quickly becoming, I think that this is sort of the future, which it makes a lot more sense for companies to be the ones who certify the skills needed to get a job than colleges. And that is I think that is rapidly taking off. And a lot of the reason is because you can do it from your house.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the certifications are an interesting education tool because, I think it's what colleges were meant to be. I think that it was meant to be job training. I think if you go farther enough back into history, college might have been that, but it's not anymore. And this certification is highly targeted to whatever it is that you're learning. If you want to learn how to be a Salesforce admin, you can go ahead and be a Salesforce admin, but you don't have to be a developer, right? Like you can pick and choose where you want to go within the field that you want, and you can hyper target your own education, which equals your own job training. So I think also exactly what you said, which is most of the time you can do this from your house. Most of the time you can do this online. With COVID nowadays, some of these tests you used to have to go into a physical building, but now they just outsource the test taking to an online proctor, and you just set up a webcam and you take the test in your house.
Yep. Somebody in another country watches you take the test to make sure you're not cheating.
Yeah, and it's very simple. It's not easy. It's not always easy, but it's simple, right? You just do it. And I agree with you. I think that this is the way that education, knowledge accumulation is heading. Job training is heading. It also makes sense, a point that you said earlier, it makes sense that these companies would want to start pushing these certifications. One, it tells you exactly what they need. Like, this is exactly the knowledge that you need. Just because you have a certificate, that being said, it's similar to a college degree. Just because you have the certification, it's not automatic that you're going to get hired.
Right. And it's still the company's version of what you need to know, and not necessarily the business that may be hiring you, unless you're working directly for that company.
Right. So that's not to say that it's going to be right when you get these certifications, you're automatically going to get hired. That's not the case either.
Right.
But at least it's a certification that's outlined by the specific company, exactly the things, the processes, the tools that you have to know how to do and know how to use in order to be proficient, or at least not proficient, but at least to start to learn how to do that job. Another point to that is it makes sense that they would do that because it just creates more jobs in their field. It self-feeds. They're creating developers, and they're creating developers and admins and jobs for people that upkeep this architecture, whether or not that's just system processes or whether or not that's actually keeping up cloud infrastructure, whether or not that's keeping up a CRM, whatever the case may be. You're building these people that build and maintain your platform, which maintains your relevance.
Not only that, but most of the people, if you learn a certain type of certification, people will joke. So I have a Salesforce Administrator certification, and a lot of people make fun because Salesforce people are Salesforce has built somewhat of a cult brand, in that people who are Salesforce devs, admins, architects are extremely, extremely enthusiastic about Salesforce and what it can do. Why? Because they can do it. And so they know what it can do. And Salesforce has built a team of professionals who are highly educated in their software, who love their software and will tell companies to upsell, to buy this level of this because it can do this. So what it also has created is it's created marketers for the software, which is fantastic. It's a wonderful way to incentivize the companies to provide these tech certifications at a low cost, and for people to just pick them up and then go work. It's great. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Oh, I like that you say job training when you refer to the tech certs, because that's exactly what it is. Also, I realize that we're using some technical words, but the thing is, like everything, if you do flashcards for a few hours, you can learn all of the vocabulary about any one of these certs. You just look at the words you don't know, you put them on flashcards, and then you drill the flashcards until you know what the words mean. That's how I learned what a lot of these words mean. That's how I think a lot of people learn what the words mean. So don't be intimidated by it, because it's the same as getting a degree and learning the vocabulary. If you learn the vocabulary, it can help you along the way. But don't be intimidated by the acronyms or the jargon, because you can learn it. It's really not hard, and there's not that much of it. Okay, so some of the companies on the forefront of this are, I mean, they're going to be big companies, Fortune 500 companies. You're talking Google, Microsoft, Amazon. Amazon has a very strong has always had a very strong cert. So Amazon is actually incentivized to give low-cost certifications. They probably get tax write-offs for it, but they're incentivized to give them to educators, so anybody who's a teacher, students, and then also veterans. They're encouraged to help these people get skills at a lower cost, which is fantastic because you can get these certs for almost nothing, and they are extremely valuable. A lot of the jobs for Amazon specifically, if you're doing any sort of Amazon tech development or anything like that, and again, don't be intimidated. You just got to learn it, and after you learn it, you can find work. But a lot of these jobs start at six figures, not below that. They start at six figures. These jobs, when I say that too, people immediately doubt me. They're like, "What? No way. This can't be real." And then they look, and then I just had a friend who's a teacher who did this, and they looked and they're like, "Is this real?" I was like, "Yeah. I mean, I told you. Look at the demand here." Also, if you live on the East Coast, you're in the money-making time zone, and you can work. A lot of these jobs are remote work. Also, got a little bit off track. So the companies that are going to be big on this is going to be Microsoft, Google, Oracle. You can even do it to an extent with Facebook and Pinterest. They have different sort of certifications. It's a little bit different. But another large group of these is going to be cybersecurity, which is growing. It's a growing need. And that's going to be people who basically just keep technology safe. That's their entire job. And those are often used by the government, they're used by private companies, and those are their own independent certification programs. So those are CISSP, CRISC, there's CompTIA Plus, that's like the most basic one. There's quite a few, and then there's also newer and upcoming certifications, like there's different blockchain certifications for cryptocurrency. There's IoT, which is Internet of Things, which is basically a new type of internet that these people are starting to build that links different smart objects essentially, and you can get certified in that, and there's security for that as well, which is growing increasingly important. So when I first got into this, it wasn't that long ago, but when I was reading, I was shocked I was just reading these people's accounts. I was on Reddit, and I was reading, for those of you who aren't on Reddit, get on Reddit to do crowdsourced research on this stuff. There's always the risk that someone's making it up, but if they're not, then you're really going to get good context from it, so use your own judgment. But as I was reading, I was going, there's no way these people are making 70K from this piece of paper. And then I went and I got the piece of paper, 70K. Like, it's crazy. It's the craziest thing. And I think for a lot of people too, you can't downplay the fact that a lot of it's remote work also, where you can move around, you can work with different teams in different places. A lot of the companies are extremely flexible, so you can negotiate different hours and different locations.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that Hannah kind of went and got in the weeds there. She said a lot of letters and words that a lot of people don't know. I didn't know half of what she was saying. So definitely don't, just because you don't know what it is, go ahead. You can Google cybersecurity certifications. You can Google Amazon certifications. We're going to make more in-depth episodes of the how to get these and study, but today is just kind of a general overview. One of the things also that you could do is both Google and Facebook, they have advertising courses and certifications that you can take. So you can become a certified Facebook ads manager. You can become a Google ads.
Pinterest too.
Yeah. Which makes sense because that's how they make their money. They want to make sure that they have certified people to,
administer their platform.
Absolutely. So I guess that's kind of the overview of the different companies. And,
Also, I realized I forgot Salesforce, which is the one that I got into. I will plug Salesforce right here too, because Salesforce, a huge part of the reason that I chose Salesforce was because I did research on the use case for it, which is a lot of businesses use it because they use it to keep track of their sales and their customers, which is a good way to determine if something is going to make money. If you're going to help a company make money or find ways to save money or make money, oftentimes that's a good place to be. And I looked into the demand. It looked pretty solid to me. And the biggest thing was that Salesforce, I will say, has one of the most accessible learning platforms there is. It's designed very user-friendly, and it's also free. You can teach yourself Salesforce for $0 on their site. There's a lot of supplementary material that has sprung up around it that's obviously faster and more condensed. But if you want to teach yourself Salesforce, it's called Trailhead. They've done a fantastic job laying out the different tracks, and they'll give you career strategies, like start here and then get this one and then get this one, and they'll tell you how much you can make at each one. And so it's hard to beat how transparent that is, and they've made it really accessible to everybody.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that what I was going to touch on next, which was cost, just because that is obviously one of the most important things, is how much does any of this cost? And before we get into an example, like you said, so Trailhead is free, Salesforce is free. A lot of them are free or relatively cheap, nominal price for assuming that you can get it, and then you can go and start finding a job. You know, you go, you study, you get the certification, and then you can almost immediately start finding work.
At the high end, I would say $1,000. At the high end.
That's just a ballpark, right? Exactly. A lot of them are cheaper.
My initial cost for Salesforce, I bought 2 courses, so you don't have to do that, but I bought 2 courses, and then you do have to pay to take the test because you're paying for a proctor to watch you take the test. So Salesforce charges you for that. My total cost was $362.
Right.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. And most of the cost was paying for that proctor.
It was the test.
And the practice test. I think you took a practice test and
I took a practice exam and I took an exam, and I believe that represented $250 of that cost. Yeah. The rest of it was Quizlet questions, flashcards, and just self-study.
Right. It wasn't very difficult. I mean, you did it very accelerated. You studied very hard. Not taking that away from you. That being said,
it's not hard to do.
Yeah, right. You just sit your butt in a chair and learn it and learn the stuff.
That's a phrase that we use a lot, but it's like butt in chair. If you have to do it, it's a crude phrase, but it's true. Like, the only way that I did that was to put my butt in a chair for 5 hours every day and study, which I will say, as an adult, it's a difficult skill to relearn. I was never a good student, and I get bored very easily, and I have a hard time sitting still. That said, that's part of the reason why we're so enthusiastic about it too, is I have the least amount of natural ability to sit still and study for a test, but I did. And that's why I think that a lot of people, it's super accessible. I feel like it's really one of those cases where if I can do it, I really think that anybody can do. I think that anybody can do that. You know, you might need some help and to get somebody to watch your kids or just to set that time aside, but if you can, do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I will vouch for you and say that's not you being humble or anything like that. Like, that's real.
No, it's real.
That's real. Like,
if you
can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be an ass either.
No, I don't think you are, baby. Yeah, it's real. That's real stuff right there. You know, of anybody in my life, you know how ill-equipped I am as just my personality and habits to do that. It was not an easy thing to do, but at the same time, and also another huge part is I am not tech savvy. I had no technical experience prior to that, none. Not only did I have no technical experience, but Ryan can testify to the fact that I had an active allergy to computers and would avoid doing things at all costs. So you don't have to have prior tech knowledge to do this. You don't even know how to use Excel or anything, nothing. You can start from zero.
And I think so. I think my last question before we get into some different things is going to be like, so we kind of went over what it was. We kind of went over what companies might be looking for it, an idea of possibly how much you get paid depending on the certification, and then the cost of the certifications. I guess how long? Like, what is an average? I know that they're all different, but like, how long can you expect to study before you can get, from, okay, I want to get a certification, you sign up for whatever course, or you schedule your test, how far out should you schedule your test, things like that.
I think a lot of people I think are really intimidated by the length. They see a lot of the course estimations will say 6 to 8 weeks or 6 months. That is very generous. I think that is way too long. If you were trying and you were actively setting aside time every day to study and to actively get through things, then I think you can do it in 3 months or less. And I think actually for all of the things on here, I think that that's possible. That would be accelerated. But if you're trying to get a job, especially if you're somebody right now who's unemployed, dude, take advantage of the time that you have. If you do not have a job right now, put your butt in a chair and study for 5 hours a day, and you can get any of these certifications. I believe it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you know. If you sit down and study, you can do it. You can do it. So I think another thing is that people get really hung up on not knowing the knowledge, but usually the people that are hung up on not knowing the knowledge are the same people who have a college degree and don't have any knowledge. I'm not saying that in a condescending way. I'm saying it because the people who I've spoken to who are trying to retool their skill sets, who have college degrees that are now trying to move into these certifications, they're like, well, I want to make sure I know all of it. I was like, you don't need to know all of it. You didn't know all of it when you graduated college after 4 years. Pass the test. The goal is to pass the test. It's the same as your midterms. It's the same as your finals. Did you retain all of that? No, of course you didn't. No, nobody does. They left college and probably forgot everything that they learned, because that's how it is when you're studying for a test. Your goal is the same as a college degree, and that is to get a piece of paper. The reason why is because the piece of paper is the thing that companies want to see in order to know this is the agreed upon standard, that this thing represents this amount of knowledge. That's it. You don't have to know how to do everything. You will learn it on the job. That is how people learn. Because the thing is, you're not going to learn all this theoretical stuff and all the different ways to use this thing if you've never actually used it. You will only learn that by doing work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important point. It's being honest about what it is, and it's a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper that just hopefully gets your foot in the door. Like we like to say, on the job requirements, it's just another line checked off of that you have it. The
difference with this one, though, for the tech jobs is that if you don't have that cert, oftentimes they will not hire you. It's different than the college degree. If you don't have the degree, but you have the cert, there's a much higher chance that you're going to get called back. If you have a degree and no cert or no knowledge about that thing.
So we kind of talked about the how to do it, and right now we're just talking about like self-study, buying courses online, doing flashcards, Quizlet, things like that. I know that there are, depending on the field that you go into, you can also go to like boot camps. There are actual places you can actually fly to, or they have online boot camps now too. Every Tuesday, Thursday from 8 to 4, or whatever it is, 5 days a week for 40 hours a week for 4 months, depending on what it is you want to learn. And you can just take a boot camp and then get certified after a month or 6 weeks or 3 weeks, however long the boot camp is.
Yeah. So boot camps are, I think boot camps are good for people that need a lot of structure. But I also think that if you're skeptical or you're highly leveraged to other debt, that's probably not a good idea for you, because oftentimes the boot camps are extremely expensive and they oftentimes are long days. A lot of boot camps are not structured around somebody who's already working. So if you have a job, that's probably not a good option for you. You're going to have to use your vacation time to go to that boot camp. And they're thousands of dollars. Sometimes they can be extremely expensive. From my experience of the developers that I work with too, and these certifications are not all development certifications. A lot of them are the soft skills around it, but a lot of developers will say that they wish they hadn't gone to boot camp and they had just taught themselves. And a lot of them say that it wasn't worth the money that they spent and they could have just taught it to themselves. Whether or not they could have done that with no knowledge, I don't really know. And I think even though I know and I've self-taught, I have multiple certifications at this point, I think that if I were to try to learn a hard skill like JavaScript or Python or some sort of coding, I would probably go to a boot camp. The reason being is I think it's intimidating. I think I'm too intimidated to go and try to figure that out myself. I think I'd rather have a person tell me what it is I need to learn, even though I know I could probably be more refined, but it's a matter of the time and curriculum and structure that I think that I would choose. But if you're just starting out, I would suggest you try to get a softer certification. And by that, I mean not so coding heavy, and just teach it to yourself as an entry point. The reason being too is because it's cheaper. So try a low cost certification and see if you can get that, and then move on to a boot camp.
Yeah, absolutely. A word about the expense. One of the things though is like, yeah, are they more expensive? Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Are they more expensive than you studying on your own, taking courses on your own? More than likely. That being said, you have to evaluate of whether or not it's a good financial choice for yourself.
Return on investment.
You have to see if it makes sense for you to spend that money or it doesn't make sense for you to spend that money. One of the things is that boot camps are usually with other people and there's somebody teaching you. It's a similar thing to having a personal trainer. Could you go to the gym? Could you go online and literally get any free guide, go buy a gym membership and then go get ripped? Absolutely, you could. You can get a meal plan, you can get a workout routine, you can get a cardio routine, all of that online for free, and then get to any fitness goal you want to by yourself. Guaranteed. That being said, there's value in having a personal trainer. There's value in having somebody that holds you accountable. There's value in having somebody that when you show up, you don't have to think about it. You don't
also,
have to,
the community aspect.
You don't have to think about what it is you're learning. You don't have, like, okay, or what it is that you're doing today. All right, today we're gonna do bench, right? All right, tomorrow we're gonna do back. All right, easy. I'm gonna show up and that's what we're gonna do. I don't have to think about it, and that's the value that boot camps bring. I think what you touched on was important in that what we find happens similar to college is that people want to go to these boot camps similar to going to college, where they don't know, they've never been in that industry before. They don't even know if they like to say a coding boot camp. They don't even know what coding is. They don't know what a coding job entails. They don't know what Python is for. They don't know what JavaScript is for. They don't know HTML and CSS, right? If they want to be, right, exactly. You know what I mean? They're like, I want to build websites. And then they're like, okay, well, should I go to a boot camp to do it? That I find that to be similar to, well, I want to be in marketing, so I'm going to go get a marketing degree. I want to be in marketing, so I'm going to go and get a communications degree, right? It's your same thing.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't know what is marketing, right? Like, what is it? All right. Well, then, do you really need to get a degree to be in marketing? No, you don't. You don't need one. Does it help? I mean, you can ask. Depends who you ask, right? But I think what you said is definitely a good idea, which is to start slow. If you are thinking about data analytics, you're thinking about doing something with Python, you're thinking about going to a boot camp, maybe try to learn a little bit by yourself first, right? Maybe take a a minor certification, or maybe just watch a bunch of YouTube videos, or take a Coursera course, or take a Udemy course, something cheap. And then just see, okay, do I like this? Is this something that I want to do? Okay, well then let's go to a boot camp, because now that I've tried to do it by myself, I'm struggling. I'm finding I don't know where to go. I'm finding I don't know what I need to know. And then so you go to a boot camp, and then you do the financial analysis of whether or not it makes sense. Okay, this boot camp costs $15,000 at the back end. I'm going to make whatever. You're going to make $100,000. You're going to make $88,000. You're going to make $60,000. Whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Right now, I make $40,000 a year. Doesn't make sense. And then a lot of people, the pushback that we get from this is like, well, that sounds like what you're talking about sounds like college.
Yeah, except for you actually make money afterwards.
A lot of times you're walking at what you said earlier, which is a lot of times you're walking into places that absolutely require a certain certification for whatever reason, for whether or not they work with the government and they need somebody that's certified in this thing. Like, they absolutely need somebody. Like, I need you to have this cert. They don't need anybody that has a college degree. That's not necessary. But I need you to have this cert. Or, you're working for whatever the case may be. And then what we say to that too is that a lot of times it's much cheaper and it's much quicker than actually going to college.
I think with the boot camps though, you're right. But I think with the boot camps, it's almost, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think it's kind of past the golden age of the boot camps, because I think that there was a time, it was a few years ago, because we had a friend do that. We had a friend that went through a boot camp, and it was a couple months, right? And then he got hired by Facebook. It was literally boot camp to Facebook. It was right through there. I don't think that happens as much anymore. And not only that, I think now the demand for the tech jobs is spread out so much that it's not that the one he went to, I think, was in San Francisco. So obviously that's different than one somewhere in the middle of Ohio, where you're not going to have those, whatever that boot camp is. If they're running a boot camp in San Francisco, the likelihood that they can connect you to a company is probably a lot higher. We live in a different time now where the online learning there has never been online learning like there is now. Never. It is the most accessible it has ever been. I think when those boot camps were going on, there was less people interested in it and there were less resources. The resources were harder to find. And so it was easier for people to go to boot camps. Whereas now I actually think that in a lot of ways, for the softer skills especially, it's easier to go online than it is to go to a boot camp, and it's definitely cheaper.
And I think we're just outlining options right now. We're just outlining options
because you can do whatever works
for people to explore. Some people like using the example that I said earlier. Some people need personal trainers, and some people don't. But that's just. And
it's not for everything. So you might like I said earlier too. I would consider doing a boot camp for coding before I would do an online cert for it. So it's very individual.
So moving on, one of the things that we have to stress about tech certifications or obtaining any kind of certification is that most of the time, companies don't require college degrees. And so if you're making the decision, if you're not sure about whether or not you want to go to college or whether or not you want to pursue one of these certifications, do some soul searching, figure out why you would want to go to college. If you're trying to go to college because you think you're going to get job training to get into one of these fields, well, maybe think about doing a certification instead. Right? Instead of going to college this semester, maybe take the semester off and see if you can get some certifications, and then see if you can just go apply with that, right? And then save that money that you would have paid for that semester tuition, put some of it into courses, put some of it into taking the test. You're probably going to come out a lot ahead on it. You're probably going to come out a lot ahead on that investment, and then go ahead and get those certifications and then start applying to those jobs. It's something that we're seeing a wave of different, not only tech companies, but manufacturing, services business, almost every field. Less and less companies are caring about college degrees.
There's a movement going on. If you don't know about it, it's because you might still be in the demographic that people are trying to sell you a college degree, because it is rapidly changing.
Well, what we talk about a lot is what happened was that so many people have college degrees now that it's just so watered down. The curriculum is not what it used to be. It's not, maybe before, like I said, in history, it used to be job training, but it's just not that anymore. Most people go to college and they get a liberal arts degree. They go to college and they get a
people don't like that. It is true. The majority of degrees that are issued are in the liberal arts and humanities. People can get as butthurt as they want about this, but that is just true, which is a huge reason why there's such a high unemployment rate for college graduates.
Right. And it's like, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many people, when I was working in the restaurant industry, how many people had psychology degrees, communications
and masters.
So
many master's degrees.
A lot of
master's
degrees. Yeah.
I was like, dude, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And they're not unemployed. They're not unemployed.
No.
But technically they're underemployed.
I would say underemployed and unemployed. It's like 56% under and unemployed of college graduates. And the thing is too, the people who I met that were like that in the service industry, they were never engineers. They were never people in STEM. That's different math, but it was by and large people with liberal arts and humanities degrees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, because they'd look at the jobs available and they go, well, I can't take a job for $37,000. I have a master's degree. That's all that's available for you.
What's funny is that's like, not funny because it's tragic, but
it is. It is really heartbreaking.
Is that we've seen that a lot. You know, that is, unfortunately, that is not a unique story. We have known a lot of people that are very proud because of the work that they've done in order to get conferred these degrees, these advanced degrees, and then they're too proud to take work. Just because, exactly what you said, I can't take this job because it doesn't pay enough. Unfortunately, that's what the market dictates. Your degree is worth.
Which means that's what your degree is worth.
It's unfortunate, you know. And then it's not my job to tell them, you know, but they're coming to me and they're coming to us and they're talking to us about it. I can't find work. Like, what do you mean you can't find work? That's a job right there. That's like, you're qualified. Oh, that doesn't pay enough. Oh, well, I mean, that's what you got a degree in, right?
But then
that's
a lot of the times
qualified for.
Oh, and then actually in the last couple weeks, a really exciting thing happened, which is LinkedIn released a beta feature called LinkedIn Skills. And what they are doing is they are creating an entire funnel for people that do not have degrees to get guaranteed calls back from recruiters to basically just guaranteed get hired. The reason for that is there's such a shortage. I know a lot of people are like, oh, there's no jobs. That's not true. You're looking in the wrong spot. You're looking in jobs where they're cutting people, like, again, liberal arts and humanities jobs. They're going to cut your pay and there's less of them. Why? Because right now, people need people in different fields. You need to look in different fields. And so LinkedIn, what they're doing is in an effort to hire people, to fill this massive demand for especially remote work and tech jobs. They're going to LinkedIn and the recruiters are recruiting people that don't have degrees because jobs are open for too long. Yep. And nobody applies to them. That's the other thing, because a lot of college graduates will self-eliminate from jobs that they don't fit every single requirement on the list because no one taught them how to apply for jobs.
Right. And we've talked about this a lot before, and that's actually a perfect segue of the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which is basically once you get these certifications, it's becoming less and less frequent where on the job listing it says college degree required. That being said, on very many of them it still says college degree required. It says I need cert A, I need cert B, I need cert C, and then skills, and the last thing it says is 4-year college degree required. And so the last thing that I wanted to touch on today was basically, if you fit the job description for the most part, if you have those certifications and the last thing that you do not fit is that college degree, you can still apply to that job.
Disregard college degree required. Disregard it. If it said preferred, don't even read that sentence. It's completely irrelevant. That company has already embraced reality. The other company is just denying reality, which is that they need a job filled and there are not enough qualified people. And if you fit enough of the qualifications and you don't have a degree, guess what? They're going to hire you anyway. They don't care. They don't care.
Yeah. Are they going to use a pre-filter? Are they going to, when you put your job application in and you say you don't have a college degree, are the recruiters or the HR people not even going to look at it? Yeah, sure. Some of the companies are, but that doesn't matter. You're not going to work for those companies. But a lot of the companies don't have those filters. A lot of those companies are, your application is going to hit the hiring manager's desk. And when it hits the hiring manager's desk, okay, maybe they look at it. Maybe they don't. Doesn't matter. At least you're applying. The biggest thing that we have to tell people all the time is to not self-eliminate themselves from the job market. Just apply.
Don't deny yourself a job. Don't turn down a job that you could get. You're basically pre-turning down. Or if you were applying for jobs, you're probably not in a position to turn down a job before you've been offered it. So that's what you're doing. When you are not applying for a job because you don't fit one of the requirements on the long list of requirements, you are turning down a job that you want to apply for before the company has turned you down. Stop doing that. Apply.
And one of the things that we like to just talk about is that you're in good company. 2/3, if you don't have a degree, you're in good company. 2/3 of Americans don't have degrees.
That's a lot of people, by the way.
That's a lot of people. And the country's still running.
And the country still ran before people had college degrees.
Absolutely. The world is still running. The companies are still making money. They're still hiring. It's not, you're not alone. You don't have to feel like just because you don't have that one thing that you're less than the other job applicants. You're less so much that you don't even put your application in. I know, I've been there. I've literally self-eliminated. I've talked about this before, but I've literally been that person when it said college degree required and I didn't apply. So you're not alone. Apply.
Apply.
So,
and one last story about that is that it took me, as somebody who believes this in my core, I believe what we are saying right now, obviously, because we're sitting here talking about it, and I've worked my way through these things, and on my last offer letter, a job that I still currently have, it says on my offer letter. And this is actually a good one too, a good one to note as far as getting the certs. But on my offer letter, it actually says Salesforce developer. I'm not a developer. I was an admin, but I had a Salesforce certification. It said Salesforce certification, and then it specified several certifications, but I had one just right below that, and that was good enough because if you're applying to the right job and no one else is applying, you're the only candidate. People, I think, don't realize too how often you are the only candidate. You're the only one because people are not going to call back. They're going to self-eliminate. And at the end of the day, you're looking at jobs where there's only like 3 applicants and one of them doesn't call back and the other one's late. And then there's you. And if you show up on time and you're glad to be there and you're close enough. So on my offer letter, the thing that was really crazy to see was where it said they wanted somebody with a requirement was an advanced computer science degree. I have 0 degrees. I have no degree. I am degree free. I have no anything from a college. And that was really where I think for us it locked in, where I was like, you don't have to listen to that. You can just completely ignore it. And you're not going to get called back every time, but you're going to get called back a lot more than you realize. And apply.
Yeah, you definitely don't have a computer science degree.
No, I don't have any of them.
Right.
But yeah, really, it is really important though. Just, and I know it's hard. Like I've been there where I broke into a cold sweat clicking an apply button to send a digital resume because I felt like I was breaking the rules. you need to keep breaking the rules. If you're still breaking into a cold sweat, you haven't broken them enough. And not only that, but you need to, and this is self-talk too. You are not inferior. You are equally able to do that job as anybody else.
So I think that's a perfect place to end it today. Thanks for hanging in with us, guys. This is just a general overview of different certifications, tech certifications, specifically tech certifications that we're talking about, just because that's one of the fields that we see it most in. But there are certifications in any field, right? In a lot of fields nowadays.
Licensing and certs, yeah.
Licensing and certs, right? Management, business processes, things like that.
Home inspections, even. There's a wide variety of things.
Yeah. And so basically Google it, do your research, figure out what it is you want to do, figure out if there is a certification for you, look at the job requirements, look at the job requirements of a job that you're thinking about getting, and then attack it from there. See, okay, so I need certification A and I need certification B, but I don't need certification C. All right, well then just go get those 2 certs and then go apply to that job. And then you look at the next job listing and then you're like, oh, okay, well this job listing says that I need certification C and certification A. I already have cert A. I'm going to go get cert C. Go get cert C now, right? And you just attack it. You can reverse engineer it and then go and attack it and go ahead and attack it that way. But that's probably another episode that we're going to be talking about. That's for another time. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Like we said before, you can Google and keep a list of the stuff that we've mentioned in the podcast. But if you want all of this information in one place, you can use it and go through and just have a guide. We did make one. It's on our website. It's degreefreenetwork.com, and you can buy the guide on there. Yeah,
if you guys have any questions or anything like that, we love to get them. Leave us a message. If you guys liked what you guys hear, please think about subscribing and then also giving us an honest review. It really helps other people to find us. It really helps to get the word out. Until next time, guys. Aloha.